And we are live. And this time, you may notice that the title is Three's a Crowd. And I bet you're wondering, what do you mean three? There's only two of you fools. Well, guess what? Our special guest this time, David. Take it away.
Hi.
We've all come to be fools.
It's true. For this episode
Oh.
only, it's three fools.
This episode
Hi.
only? Oh god.
Maybe, but you know, it's their
Alright,
show, so
now.
I'll let them. I'll let them. I can't talk.
No worries.
Hi guys, my name's David. Also Shiranui on mainly just Brave, and also Shaman in the Discord. If you guys know me, I'm a regular in the Brave Frontier help chat. And I also been playing Brave for, I want to say, 5 years or so. So I've been around for a long time. And I'm just very happy to be here right now.
We're beyond happy to have you. Honestly, having you as a first guest, the perfect choice. Which kind of segues us into, I don't want to say the main topic, but a large component of, I think, what we'll be talking about while we're on here. And I'll let you sort of introduce that, and we'll follow your lead.
Okay. Well, first, the first topic is gonna be the beginner's guide, which was my first community project for Brave, especially for the Discord. And I want to say the inspiration behind writing it was, I want to say, very special because it was during the days when I was still being a little troll. If you guys remember that, I sort of gotten better. And there was a day where someone was asking about how do I get started in Brave again. I'm new, I don't know what to do, and I just decided to pull up the beginner's guide link. And they came. I'm not sure if the person came back and they were like, "Yeah, I still don't know what's going on." And I was just like, "Okay, what's with these beginner's guides?" So I popped one up. I looked at the one from like 2017, and then I read it through. I'm just like, "This is so outdated. Like
Yup.
this is
Yeah.
2019, and this is like what? This information is like feels like it's for like 2015."
This is
So,
super bad.
Yeah,
They were,
and-
they were all
Yeah. I can imagine the people just were so busy with stuff they didn't have time to fully flesh it out. But that what inspired the beginner's guide. Then I just started writing. It took me about 2 weeks to 3 weeks, I want to say. Then I let Faf proofread it, and then I think I had other people read it through just to get some of the kinks out. And then I finally released it. It was like a soft release because originally I wanted Lena to read it first, but he was taking time because I think he was busy. And so then Aleph caught it and then decided to make it a pin. And next thing you know, Navi decided to put it in the Linbot. I was just like, oh, there we
Then
go.
I penned it. Oh, hi, Lena.
Oh,
Hi,
lead us to the
Lena.
stream.
In the stream chat.
Yes. I wasn't going to release the guide without you proofreading it, but, I have a feeling you were very busy at the time. You are a very busy man.
Lena,
And-
busy? Never. Lena's
yeah,
never got
never-
anything going
never.
on. I have no idea
Yeah,
what you're talking
never.
about.
Oh no.
He's probably sleeping most of the time for all we know.
Yeah, you know Lena, always sleeping.
Always sleeping. But then that's how the beginner's guide became like I think one of the best tools for the chat. And also I think that link has been pulled up so many times. And every time I go back to check out the doc just to edit things, I always see people reading it. So I'm like, oh cool. People are actually reading this thing.
It's a phenomenal guide. I mean, it takes the good aspects of Brave Frontier and explains them just as well as it explains the frustrating aspects. I think that it's just, from a beginner's point of view, I think that the reason it's so beloved, both in the community and by people who are reading it, is just that it so eloquently and well explains everything that should be understood by a beginner, but the game has no intention of explaining.
That was always the issue with Brave since the very beginning, was that the tutorial was very lackluster. It was very, very basic. Like it just told you, oh, fire beats earth, water beats fire, earth beats thunder, and thunder beats water, and light and dark are weak against each other. And then, oh look, quests.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gross.
always been lacking, and I think that the presence of a beginner guide, even the very existence of it, would and should entice new players into the game, knowing that there's such a well thought out beginner's guide that they can rely on for the information that the tutorial just simply doesn't provide.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, what's the game gonna tell you about summoning?
Yeah.
Oh, you can use 5 gems to summon. Here's your.
Mhm.
Wow.
Oh my god.
This is tangentially related, but I remember this was a discussion that we had in help chat. There
Mhm.
was someone there who we pulled up the beginner's guide for, and you were helping them. And they said that they did not trust the guide. They didn't trust the guide, but they did trust you. And I was just like, he wrote the guide. What are you doing?
I didn't put my name in it because I thought it wasn't like needed, but I think I should put my name in it now so people know. Yeah, I read it.
Yeah. So, I guess my question for you would be, alongside the inspiration for creating the guide, as new content comes out, would you be are you updating the beginner's guide? Because I'll be honest, it's been some time since I've taken a browse through it, though I promise you I have. And it's phenomenal. But for example, if a new piece of really relevant content came out, what would be your response to that? Would you take it and run with it and add it to the guide, or would it really, as we see in the command on the Brave Network, would you kind of create a new updated guide to incorporate that in?
Funny enough, you should say that. I'm actually working on a bigger update to the beginner's guide. The
Ooh.
beginner's guide is actually getting upgraded to what I like to call the Brave Compendium,
Mm-hmm.
which is my next big project, which is why I haven't been updating beginner's guide. I apologize about that because I do understand it's still missing stuff, especially with DBB being released recently. And of course, we have more gates that I have to update the gate list. I also have to like tune up a few things. There's so many different quality of life changes that happen.
Yeah.
And so um, I decided I need something a little bit more adaptable because it's kind of hard to just constantly add to the beginner's guide because I then it feels like, okay, this is not really be for beginners anymore. I think I need to make this more of a something like almost anyone can read it. Beginners, returning players,
Yeah.
and hopefully more experienced players. So that is when I decided, okay, I need to make an encyclopedia,
Mm-hmm.
and that is where the Brave Compendium is born, and it's currently a work in progress. I'm still writing it, and it is basically going to be the evolved version of the beginner's guide, but it's going to have a lot more stuff. There's a
Yeah.
lot planned for it. I plan
I
to have,
think
yes?
I think that out of every game that I've ever seen, this is going to be the game that has the most acronyms of any game
Oh,
ever.
absolutely.
And that
Oh my
list,
God, yes.
Absolutely.
that
Yes,
list is
yes.
going to take at least 2 pages.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. The compendium is going to include a lot more stuff. It's not only going to include a revamped version of the beginner's guide with almost all the new stuff being put in and will continue to be updated upon. I plan to have like strategy zone clears. I plan to have trial clears. I plan to have Grand Gaia Chronicles clears. I want to make this the number one source for everything you need for Brave Frontier because I understand people don't know. It's like, oh, but I can't beat this GGC
I
It's a
with
hate
tough
these
one.
new
I hate that.
yeah.
I hate that
It
acronym.
doesn't flow out well at all. But people even with new units that we say, oh, you should just, but they're like, I'm still having trouble. I want this to be something like, well, here's an example clear. Here are the spears that I use.
Mhm.
Here's whatever, and this is how it's done. And there'll be explanations, and also, basically, it's gonna be my biggest project I think of this year because it's gonna be so big. And best of all, I plan to also have um, community oh my god, community interaction as well.
Yeah.
Community interaction as well. I also want people to submit their own clears, submit their own articles, talk about the game, like like in editorials. Like I want this to not only be it's growing to be more than an encyclopedia. It's becoming like, I don't know, I can't really describe it. It's kind of bigger than that.
A Nemeth gear with steeple rows and Geld Knight hacks.
And I really like the concept of a Brave Compendium, only because it's almost like a wiki, right? We have the Brave Frontier wiki. Shout out to Linathan. He's the wiki admin bureaucrat, as he refers to himself. It's an awesome wiki. But the Brave Compendium almost feels like a focused, concentrated version of that, where you can kind of, okay, well, I'm struggling in this GGC, right? I can go to the wiki page and I can understand how this happens, what this does, the interaction here. But the Brave Compendium can offer me all of that in almost a concise format that explains it in more of a guide than an understanding version. And that's amazing, because while there is the existence of kind of encyclopedia materials and here's how everything works, some players are looking more for that almost beginner's guide approach to things, which is, okay, I understand how it works, but how do I beat it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I love that idea. I'm entirely looking forward to this.
Yes, it's definitely gonna be a giant project.
Yeah.
It's gonna be huge. I'm not even sure if I could finish in like the next couple months, but if I do manage to get like a good skeleton and then start just incorporating things as I go, it is definitely something that's always growing and changing and becoming bigger.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
also, and yeah, shout outs to Linathan for his wiki. I honestly so much from reading that wiki when I was just starting out in Brave. Besides from watching like YouTube videos and stuff, it's honestly the wiki that taught me most of the stuff.
Ushi.
Like, oh yeah, Ushi. He taught me clears and stuff, but when I was always questioning some things, I always checked the wiki. Like I always read the units, I always read like what they do. I always like look at the numbers. I always judge units for myself. I did everything myself after I found out how to use the wiki to my fullest potential, its fullest potential. And yes, it has proven to be an amazing tool, but I do agree sometimes it's a little bit broad. Like it can only explain so much. That's why I want this to not be a replacement, but to be a supplement, an extension.
Yeah. And Blue Arc poses a good question, which this is totally like a way down the road question. So if you don't have an answer, it's no problem. But Blue Arc asked if how you would be organizing this. Would it be hosted on, for example, would it be hosted on the wiki, or would it kind of be a giant set of Google Docs? How do you kind of want to see this play out and be created in your ideal vision?
Right at this moment, and thank you, Lena. You have been such a help on the project. Yeah, like you wouldn't believe how much I appreciate your help. But I am thinking about I am currently still thinking on how to put this out there. At first, I thought maybe a series of Google Docs, but I feel like that's way too many links.
Yeah.
It's not really pretty. And it feels kind of like you're constantly going through Google Docs, and sometimes Google Docs is not that reliable when it has like so much stuff going on, and it's definitely not friendly for mobile either. It's definitely not friendly for mobile.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking maybe I will do like a website, but then again, I have to look into that and also like what I can do, and also since owning a website, it can be pretty financially heavy at times.
Yeah.
I was trying to see like what like free website building medium can like host this, but that's something down the line, because I'm just focused on just revamping the beginner's guide, which is like part 1 of the compendium.
Absolutely. And down the road, there are definitely options as well for helping host that website. For those of you who are in the Brave network, a lot of the bots that we run have Patreons. For example, GiselleBot has a Patreon devoted to the creator Psych. By the way, if you haven't checked out GiselleBot, it's awesome. But I wonder if you would be open to the idea of almost crowdsourcing or crowdfunding, that website through Patreon, because I would be more than happy to help in any monetary way to create the Brave Compendium website, because that would be a phenomenal resource.
I think honestly, if that were to happen, that would be I don't want to like put any pressure on that on anyone.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
a lot. So that's why I think for now I want to see like where this goes,
Mhm.
and also I want to finish the first part at least just to get it going,
Yeah.
and then of course I'll take it from there. It's like I said, this could be my biggest project. I don't see myself finishing this anytime
Yeah.
soon.
And this, I mean, the cool part about having an encyclopedia or a compendium like this is that it's never ending. I mean, there's always going to be more content that's coming in. There's always going to be more content that you can update in that compendium. And I can already tell by your excitement on this project that this is going to turn out really well.
Yeah, like that's why I kind of stopped sort of working so much on the beginner's guide, because the problem is there's just so much information now. It's like I don't think a beginner needs to know all this stuff, but then again, I can't just. So I was like, okay, I need something bigger.
Yeah.
This is it. This is it.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great idea.
I do
So,
too. I think that this will turn out really well. I think that new players will be able to use it. I'm not really sure how to phrase this.
mm-hmm.
I remember running into this problem in help chat, and I know I'm using help chat a lot for reference, but there are some times when people run into like a situation where they're trying to do like dichroma or something, and they are just woefully unprepared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever someone tells them this, they call them rude and then refuse to like take any sort of criticism and like weight on it.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that at least for some parts of the beginner's guide, it should be noted that while it is a comprehensive guide of all the content in the game, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything here will be replicable by everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is something I will update the first beginner's guide for, because I do admit that there are, with all the new content coming out, I do need to address that at least, to say that you need to be careful when you're doing this kind of stuff, because that was actually one of the things you mentioned to me when I was writing the Vortex Arena section, that it is not endgame, but it's something that beginners should be wary of, because it's not really meant for them. But if they still want to go for it, we're not going to stop you.
Mm-hmm.
But just be aware that you might not perform as well as you think you might.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, no one reads that part of the guide because I
Unfortunately.
keep doing Vortex Arenas, and I find people at like 15k points with like they're like level 250, and they have like a Ludero lead, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
I think I did write. Did I? I don't remember if I wrote something about like how Vortex Arena is a gem. Let me just quickly look, because I think I wrote something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. God. Oh, I forgot how big this was.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how big this
flexing.
was.
Yeah, they're flexing the abs of their Ludera as I just insta-gib their squad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to instigate that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's. Oh, my important note. VA is considered to be hard content because if you lack a full Omni squad, you will face difficulties as you climb higher in the regular ranking. You will face tougher opponents, and it will be hard to get all the rewards from the title rankings as a beginner. If you would like to still get something out of VA, I recommend just getting 5,000 to 8,000 points total to get the gems and summon tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you can put off VA until you are stronger.
Yeah. And see, I love that the way that that's just put so concisely. It's not, because there's one of the main issues that I have with Brave Frontier, and even with the kind of the community interpretation of Brave Frontier, is there's just this humongous disconnect between players and you can call this a flex, but players at our level and players who are at a beginner's or even intermediate level. There's just this humongous disconnect in understanding of how the game works, understanding of mechanics, understanding of content, and having something like VA, an explanation that is just easy and concise, you can go for it. But if you're not up to it, I would suggest doing XYZ. Is so much better than trying, in some way to explain in 10 billion different words why VA is good, why VA is bad, and have these contesting opinions in help chat or really anywhere else. But instead, there's this source of truth. And I work in the data analytics field, and we love the term source of truth. But to have a guide that you can really go to and just be like, this guy knows what he's talking about, or these guys know what they're talking about, and to be able to look at it and see that this is how VA works and this is how you should go for it is awesome for a player at the beginner or intermediate level, because it's not anything but just raw advice, and I love that.
Mm-hmm. And that's why. Oh, sorry, Faf. I'll let you finish.
No, it's all right. One of the things that we were actually planning on doing, we were actually planning to do this during the Fire VA, but it fell through, is that we were going to record a few edited sessions of Recoome doing some of Vortex Arena, and then me doing the Vortex Arena to kind of give people an idea into what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was ultimately scrapped, both because there was no real good way for us to record gameplay, and because the level of edits that I think that I specifically was aiming for might have been too much and would have dragged the video on to indefinite degrees.
Well, and at the time, my editing skills and software were not exactly next generation. But now I've kind of been familiarizing myself actually with an editing software that David showed to me. Vegas, is it Vegas Movie Studio? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Vegas Movie Studio.
Phenomenal, intuitive, sensible, and has tons of awesome stuff in it. So expect in the future to see some cool edits on our upcoming gameplay videos.
I can't wait to see that.
It's going to be cool.
And I think it's time if we talk about the other side project we were all.
Mm-hmm.
So,
the tier list?
One thing before you started, David, just out of curiosity, if you could move a little bit closer to your mic, just because you're cutting out a little bit and I don't want it to affect the recording.
Sorry.
No worries. I just wanted to make sure that we hear every single thing that you had to say, because I'm sitting on the edge of my seat because this is awesome.
Oh my god, was I cutting out before, or was it just me?
A small amount, but it's not to the point where we can't understand you. You are more than fine.
Okay, good. So I'll stay closer then.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I'm pretty sure everyone in this chat knows what we're talking about, but our other side project, which is going to get changed, which was the tier list project.
Yay!
I'll take a brief moment to point out that it's called the tier list project, but this is not a text tier list. This is a separate tier list that we were working on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, even in its incomplete state, better than text ever was.
Mm-hmm.
But, we got to a point where we were running into a problem where we, as a group, knew exactly what the best units were and what the absolute worst units were. But we were having, and I know this is kind of a psychological perspective to take on it, but we were having trouble distinguishing things that were right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we would encounter a unit that was like just it was difficult to gauge just and I think I related it to I can't tell the difference in strength in millimeters. I only measure in meters.
Yeah.
So when you're asking me to measure the strength difference between Barbara and I don't know what other LM fire spark buffer is there.
Shura.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
When you ask me to compare the strength between those two, I have no idea.
Yeah.
If you're asking
Acme, yeah.
I can tell you that Shura loses to Offladillith, even though Offladillith is literally just a recolor of Shura. But
that honestly, and thankfully we caught this early on because we thought it would work out, and we were we thought we were fair, but the problem we were seeing is that we could never really establish that middle ground. And without that middle ground, we couldn't really continue forward with any units because then it's just like we already know who's good.
Yeah.
Why bother settling for something less?
Mm-hmm.
And the problem was judging that fairly.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we decide to we're gonna try a new method. And so
How
this is a
many
sneak
units
peek.
did we attempt to do, and then like maybe 1 or 2 people out of the 12 people present in the meeting had actually recorded ratings for that character?
I was, and yeah, and that's what you guys saw. I
Mm-hmm.
did post the draft list for the people working the project, and yeah, it was very upsetting to see where the numbers were going, and
Yeah.
that's where we knew that this can't continue.
Mm-hmm.
Like it can't continue, and yeah. So right now, I'm planning to do a new method, which is actually suggested by Leonathan. He actually pointed this out in one of our last meetings before we have our hiatus break. We were just all pretty busy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we are gonna do something like a ranking, but not like tier list style, but just like everyone's gonna like be reviewing units, like make like a review, like write explanations,
Mm-hmm.
do an analysis, then give the final numbers. And then my plan was as a community, I mean as a committee, to basically go over it together to see if we can agree on it or change some things or add some things.
Yeah.
And we had a test. I had Lenathan do a test, and I actually really liked how it was written,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked how it came out. And then I was like, okay, I think this can be our new method. We can do it like an analysis, and that actually what is going to be tied in to the future, the compendium.
Yeah.
Basically, a part where it's going to be like a catalog of unit rankings and thoughts and analysis and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. So
And
starting, I want
mm-hmm.
to say next week to the next 2 weeks, I think we can start rolling out on method. Though it's going to be still in testing because what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, these things are all going to be kind of experimental, but
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it'll turn out well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if I had to pick, and I don't, this is not to put down any other parts of the compendium, but if I had to pick a favorite part for anything that will go in, is going to go in, or could go in, I think it's going to be this. Because there's a difference between coming into help chat and as reflected by a previous video that Fafnir and I made, and I get a smile on my face when I think about that video because it was fun to make. But when people come in to help chat and say, "Is this unit good?"
Oh
I
yes, that video.
can't
Oh my
direct. I
god, I
can't.
love that.
That video was awesome to make,
I
but
loved it.
I can't give you a straight answer unless you are extremely specific. But with the Brave Compendium, I can. Because if I have that kind of those unit ratings, rankings, here's where they're good, here's where they're bad, here's their buff values, all that stuff, I can just say, check out the Brave Compendium. Or I could even literally copy and paste from it and have a whole review for that unit instead of just someone coming and going, is Agnia good? Well, she offers this, she offers this. That might be confusing. But to be able to have a literal glossary, index, encyclopedia, whatever, about each unit that explains why they're good or why they're not good excites the hell out of me.
Well, to respond to Exo Primal here, I understand that there are a lot of alien units that are like, why would we? The thing is, that's 90% of the summoning pool, and it's so hard to say you shouldn't be use it because if you're brand new, what choice do you have?
Mm-hmm.
This is 90% of the pool. And you can't really say, oh, I could just use someone else. No, if you just have borrow for what he does, you have borrow.
2FH
That's
for the tombs. Oh god.
Which
But
I think the
yeah.
reason that I'm so excited about this is because I tried this once. I tried to create an encyclopedia for what every unit did, or almost a review of those units' usefulness, what they can be used for, and I totally failed. I got through maybe
I
100
remember
units
this
before I just went,
project.
oh my god, I can't do this alone.
I
But
remember going utterly insane.
mm,
Like, what are you doing?
I got part of the way in, and then I just said I can't right now. But
yeah.
I'm excited that this is happening again. That we'll have this now. It's just such a cool prospect. And in response to someone saying, if someone asks if Borrow is good, objectively the only correct answer is no. There is actually only one unit in the game that I will say is objectively bad, and that's Balefear. Fuck that guy.
Why do I have a feeling you were gonna say that? But then again, this thumbnail kind of foreshadowed
The
that.
thumbnail just kind of forced that into being.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, Balefear's pretty bad.
Balefear is a piece of shit, and Kranis is my waifu. And if I could drop my mic right now, I would.
I'm pretty sure that for anything that I would use Balefear for, I could find something else.
Mhm.
And you know what the funny thing is that I'm so against using Balefear that I don't even have him. I've not pulled him once. And this is despite all of my wrong luck, which is almost infamous to anyone who knows me, that my wrong luck is fucking incredible. But
It's
I
pretty
don't
funny.
have Balefear.
Yeah, I have to say that. Actually, no, I actually lost my train of thought. I was actually responding to
Mhm.
Twitch chat, but yeah, if you're at the point, I can understand what this person's saying. Like, if you're at the point your only unit is, I mean, that's impossible. It does. We know that the quest has been power crept to oblivion. We all know it's just
Mike Wazowski.
yes, basically that. But the thing is, some people don't summon that much, and yes, there are like people who aren't able to like get all the meta units.
Yeah.
So to at least help, make it a little bit more bearable, just so that they know how this unit is used for what they're good in, what they're bad in, and somewhat of a good, not like objective, but a more reasonable ranking. They can
Yeah.
have a good idea of, okay, I know where this unit is gonna end being good, and I know where this unit is gonna take me to, so I know what to summon for after, right?
Yeah.
At least we can give them that, and that's the
Mhm.
goal of the ranking project, which I think I'm going to change it, not be a tier list. I don't think a traditional tier list is ever going to work for Brave Frontier
It just
ever.
there's too much niche. There's too much situational usage. For example, and Faf and I were talking about this today, and I think we had actually talked to you about this too, just before we started, about Dark having no optimal UBB, right? You can create a tier list, and you can rank it based on whatever you want, but Dark is a great example because it has no here's the best, right? You've got nothing but crit and elemental weakness damage on those UBBs, right? And you can have this UBB that does that, or this one, or this one. How do you rank two UBBs that do 500% crit and elemental weakness damage? How do you rank them against each other, right? But if you have something like this, you can instead say, here's the merits, here's the demerits, and then compare it to the other one yourself.
Yeah, and that's the goal. That's the goal, is to get people to understand that you shouldn't just use a tier list, because the problem with any tier list in general, it depends on the game, but if it's for a game like this, it won't work because there's too much situational stuff.
Yeah.
A lot more recent gacha games have a lot more cohesion in terms of content and in terms of how units are designed and used for. For Brave Frontier, unfortunately, that wasn't the case. It was always, use what seemed good, and then you just roll with it. But now,
Yeah.
since the game has gotten more depth, but the problem is that depth has so many situations. It's like you can't compare like Xenon to like whatchamacallit. Like, what are people comparing Xenon to? Like, oh, I know, Sarah Anya. Like, you can't
What?
compare the two.
What?
How?
Okay.
No, that just came into my head.
Yeah.
Like, that's how ridiculous some of the comparisons are. It's like, oh, who's better, Sarah Anya or Xenon? It's like,
Well,
If you ask me that question, I'm gonna break into your home at 1 a.m. I'm gonna stand over you while you're asleep. I'm gonna shake you awake. I'm gonna look into your eyes, and I'm gonna say, "For what content?" I'm serious.
Exactly.
I'm gonna do it.
exactly.
I'm gonna briefly derail for a moment.
Mhm.
and I think that you can back me up on this, Recoome.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give an example of a game that can absolutely have a tier list and why that is, and then I'm going to say why Brave Frontier in general can't really have one of those.
Mm.
Um, I'm going to reference Dokkan Battle. So,
I
for
knew
those of
it.
you
I
who
knew you were
don't know,
gonna
in
say that.
Dokkan Battle, all of the units there are in the form of cards. And most of these cards do stand well on their own, but the primary thing that causes them to become strong is what they're linked with,
Hmm.
which basically has to do with what partners you put in the squad.
Hmm.
But the thing about Dokkan Battle is that their strength isn't strictly tied to having those linking partners most of the time, unless they just have shit links the whole way through.
Hmm.
They're probably going to link with at least something.
Hmm.
So you can still get a ton of mileage out of the card, and the good cards are still incredible.
Yeah.
The only time where this isn't the case is if you have like a deck made in completely of linking partners, in which case, what are you doing? Then you're just
Yeah.
running like
And
Tech TN or whatever it was
oh
for the
god.
sake of running Tech TN.
And the other thing about that, just to expand on what you're saying, Faf, because as someone who still plays Dokkan, avidly, and let me say, on this channel, we stand Dokkan. But the reason you can create a tier list so effectively on Dokkan includes everything that Fafnir said, and that it's not. There's a more broad spectrum of leader skills, right? So there
Mm-hmm.
there are there are both, in Brave Frontier, the current meta is mono, and that restricts you to essentially 6 teams. While in Dokkan, I think there's over 30 different categories now. On
Yeah,
the
they have
JP side,
category metas, which is essentially
yeah,
like, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds
yeah,
like.
it's like, in the TV show, was this character a time traveler? If yes, they're on the time travelers category, and there's 30 of these, so it's almost like separating them out so that there is an optimal team, and then there's, well, here's all the things on this list, and here's how all of those things mix together to create a cohesive team, and here's what you can replace with what, and that allows for a tier list. On the Brave Frontier side, because you're restricted so much to 5 units across 6 teams, it's entirely impossible to compare some of these units because, first of all, monos, these teams don't intersect, and second of all, you have to think about buff efficiency in here and across here, and that just doesn't allow you to compare something unless it's these 2 units have the exact same kit but different buff values. That's the only way that you can compare.
Right. And I think that that was the problem we ran into on the list,
Mm.
because many of these direct comparisons are impossible to make. Because
Yeah.
when I was thinking about the fire rankings,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking of like Zace's rankings, I'm not thinking of it from a base of this is what Offladillith does, which is just some random unit that I pulled out my ass that's at least somewhat similar to Zace.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it in terms of this is what Zace does.
Mm-hmm.
This is, and I know that seems like a really weird place to go, but that's
That's really where we were going, though. Our dialogue that we were having essentially boiled down to, well, how does this unit compare to Bakugo? How does this unit compare to Zace? And it's difficult to get away from that mentality when you are a high level player and you have, when you're like me and you're a disgusting whale and are playing with a squad of, a Juzo and 4 Inokos. Well, how does, it's difficult to then rank how Agnia does compared to a squad that entirely perfect sparks itself. It's just, it's difficult.
Yeah, that's why when we were working on the tier list project, it was going. I thought it would actually be okay, but then when we view, like, we did a overview of everything, we
Mm-hmm.
found out, yeah, this can't.
Yeah.
It just can't. Straight up
I
can't. Because
mentioned briefly, I think, in the middle of the tier list development that we were going to run into a problem where a whole lot of units were going to get like ones and twos and threes because they're all super weak with basically no distinction.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were going to get this kind of confirmation bias to where we know these units are bad. but where it's
Yeah.
difficult to rank things on a scale of badness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
You did address it, and I was aware that okay, let's just see where it goes, and maybe it won't happen. It turns out it
And
did.
then it absolutely. I don't even know
Yeah.
what the final ranking was that finally tipped the scale, but I remember
It was
there
the
being.
review.
It was the review. It was the fire review
What
because
I think the thing that genuinely tipped it off, and not to toot my own horn, but was when I said, "Don't you think we were a little too harsh on Blaze?" And
Yes.
the chat
Yes.
erupted.
Yeah, because we saw it.
Yeah.
We saw it, and that's the thing. Like you didn't think about it when you were reading it, but actually seeing the draft, and you just see like, oh wow, these are not
Yeah.
working. Should
Yeah.
I
be.
mean, I remember on the original tier list drafts back when it was just like
I think just me.
Shay, Abby, and
Yeah.
me, and I think like Killua was there as well.
Yeah, he was doing
later
some.
on.
He was doing some.
I remember ripping. I was in charge of the dark ratings back then, and I ripped some units a new asshole.
Yeah.
Like
Well put.
Siardhad just got absolutely lambasted by me. I think there were a few units that I graded super harshly, and then there were units that Abby graded where it was like, why does Karnamasta have a 10 here? And what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. I mean, then again, it was just a draft. I did fix some things because Ubi did. I think he swapped over to a different game or he hired Brave. I he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But I did tweak some of his grades after I was going over everything before the draft was done. And then we were doing our stuff. And yeah, honestly, Recoome, if you didn't say that, I think we would have gone the same path onto water, which would have been a giant mess.
Which, as much as I don't like to derail things, I think that it's good that we just, as a group, we caught it. Because if we didn't, we would have started down a line that would have led us to a textile tier list. And that's not what we want. This was created to overshadow that. And if we embrace that, you would become the very thing that you sought to destroy.
Now, granted, the ratings would have still been more accurate, or at least reflected reality better than text list. But I don't think like the grades at the end of the day would have still been meaningless.
Yeah. Exactly. And I thank God that we caught that because the numbers don't say much. And that's why I'm hoping with the new method, I'm going to try doing a lot more encompassing of what a unit can do versus what they can't do. And it will give us a lot more time to really think about it, which is what we need for this. It takes time to really, assess a unit, fairly as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Even if it's ALIM.
For the sake of being comprehensive, we might have to, like I said when we were building with the tier list to begin with, start from the top and work down.
Yes.
Start with the units that we know are going to be good. Then we can get into the middle, and then the middle creates itself, and we can work backwards from there.
Yeah.
I think so. I think probably the best way to go about it is that we'll start with relevant units and start going down.
Yeah.
Because it makes more sense because we need to start like you said from the top because those are people are going to be asking for first. Those are the things that are going to be coming out. So we have to address those first because those are the new things. And then the old stuff will just, roll in as we go. And pretty much we'll have it pretty much all done.
Or in the case of things like Deku and Sinbon and units like that have been out for over a year. I think Deku's coming up on a year.
Yeah, a year.
Yeah,
1 year. Does that mean new My Hero Academia collab? Please? I beg of you?
I mean, they did tease season 4. So...
Todoroki DBB with himself?
Maybe?
Wow. No, we need an Endeavor, we need an All Might fight, except it's Endeavor.
That'd be pretty cool. Season 4 themed. I would
be down for that.
Yeah.
Then make Todoroki water, since he mainly uses ice.
Imagine if they introduced dual element units with Todoroki.
Oh my god.
Oh God, no!
Oh god, no.
I think that
mono is enough.
Lena has already effectively put that into the realm of impossibility.
Oh,
Also,
yeah.
we are getting way off track.
Yeah, my apologies.
Yeah. I think I think one of the last topics I want to talk about coping with Brave, because I think everyone has been through almost 6 years of Gumi's shenanigans. I think it's good to like express ways how people can like deal with it, because we all been there. I done 70 summons for a Fang. I done 60 summons for a Blaze, and I only just got one or two.
It's
Yeah,
time for some
Only 60
divine
summons for
intervention,
Blaze, huh?
except this intervention is not in
I don't
any
want-
way divine. In fact, this is probably the most unholy intervention that you could possibly obtain, but we're giving it to you anyway. Time for your
Yeah.
intervention.
Yeah. For me, for
As
my
I
personal...
said that, it started pouring rain outside. What the fuck?
Oh yeah,
God is
it was raining
angry.
here too. Yeah, God is angry. He's salty. He needs water.
God's
But,
like 60 summons dry for Kaneki right now. He is pissed.
Jesus Christ.
But I do want to say that this is a
All
topic
right,
that not a
big
lot of
guy,
people...
calm down.
Well, the reason why I want to talk about this as the last thing, because not a lot of people talk about coping with Brave. We
Mhm.
just talk about, salt and memes and etc. But honestly, I can understand the frustrations players can have, and I know that's like, it's like, oh, I want to quit, I don't want to play anymore, or whatever. But it's like, okay, well, you can quit, but you've been playing this game for 5 years. You must still like it some
Mhm.
way, somehow, maybe.
I feel like the best way to reference this is that the one thing that you absolutely don't want to do under any circumstances is to end up like I think now retired player who has an almost infamous copy pasta about them
Oh, God.
that starts with them spending $1,200 for one Leona. I'm not going to name names. I'm just going to say that you don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually one of the tips I...
Don't
Oh, sorry.
want to end up like that.
Yeah. One of the tips I put in Lena,
Yes,
not
Lena,
now,
feel free to
not
bring
now.
up. If you can find the copy pasta, I will say the entire thing on this stream.
Even
Oh my
better,
God.
I could get really close to my mic with the sound insulator and read it at the end of the stream. As
Oh
a
my
reward.
God.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry, David.
It's fine, it's fine. But I think one of the things that people need to remember, that it is a game. Even if you spend money or not, you should still focus on having fun.
Yeah.
There is no need to go broke just because you don't think you're gonna have like the next meta unit.
Mhm.
Like, be sensible. Like, okay, you spent like $50 and you haven't got anything. Let's call it quits until the next paycheck. Okay? Like,
Not
you don't
every
need to get it
unit
now.
is Deku.
Yes,
please.
not every unit is Deku.
Not every unit is Sovenar.
And even if that unit is Sovenar, you have to assess whether or not it's genuinely worth it for your real life to spend $1,200 for one Leona or something like
All
that.
right.
Yep.
Since Lena posted the full copy pasta, do you mind if I derail for a second and just say this entire thing?
Be my guest.
All right. I took $1,200 for one Leona, 176 summons for one Zeruya, 164 summons for one Long, and 564 summons on Regil raid up gates and Regil resummon gates without getting a Regil. I did 40 summons on Fina and Rain Gate, got 4 Finas and 4 Lux Eterno L gifts, 126 summons on Sylvie resummon gate for 2 Sylvies and 1 resummon, 23 summons for first Natalame, and another 143 for the second one. Jesus Christ. And then 134 summons on Lancelot and Arthur Gate without Arthur and got 7 Lancelots when I wanted Arthur. Took 300 plus summons for 3 Natalames. Natalame again? What? 35
Not
for 1
Talames.
Hetepheres. And 56 for 1 Laressa. 97 for 1 Divine Dragon. 50 summons on Anil and Kares resummon gate with no Anil and Kares. I also did 135 summons on ×10 rate up crash belt banner. Why? Getting 0 crashes, isn't that a good thing? While getting 5 Janices in 19 of those crash summons while Janice has no rate up.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So one thing.
Take?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, my voice is exhausted.
No worries. So one thing that I would suggest, first of all, to the chat is if someone could figure out the probability of going 564 summons dry on a rate up skate, assuming that he was max rate of 5% the entire time, I will give you a cookie. Second of all, CC brings up an amazing point in a very wholesome manner, which is a great way to cope with Brave Frontier, as David was expressing, is an important point, is surrounding yourself with a community that's fucking awesome. I don't think, even if I went full free to play, I could not quit this game because I love this community way too much. That's one way to really stabilize yourself when you're so frustrated because you're 100 fucking summons dry for that Senbon, and that's a true story.
Also, because you know that whenever you do go and quit the game or you're on hiatus, like a whole bunch of units release like Acno, and then you just come back and you're like, what the fuck has happened?
Exactly.
Is that a personal attack? Because that happened to me.
Well, yeah, that's definitely one way to cope. But for me, how I cope also is I just got more busy with my real life. Like, work is always busy.
Yeah.
I go to the gym every morning. I also go to boxing after work. So I'm honestly busy so much to the point where I don't think about Brave half the time. And I think that helped me, like, relieve myself in terms of, like, I'm not doing, like, I'm not spending a lot of time in Brave because I was able to detach myself enough to be like, okay, if I were to get a bad summon, no problem. I'll just punch it out on a punching bag.
Yeah.
There we go. And I think that's another way people can cope is that remember that there's a life outside of Grand Gaia. Like, there's a beautiful world out there.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Ishkria is where you go when you're actually 200 summons dry. You go to Ishkria. You come face to face with Karnamasta, okay?
But yeah,
Karnamasta judges your summons.
That's right.
Oh my god, that's actually even more scary.
Karnamasta's sitting there go, no, I feel your pain. I'm 80 summons dry on a Juzo, dude. I get it. Like
he's reaching out with his weird flashing grabby hands. That's him trying to console you with your summons.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know how to describe his hands.
Yeah, man, get out of Grand Gaia to go to Orbis to do guild raid for 22 hours.
Guild raid.
Orbis
oh my
interact
god.
with this creature that has eyeballs on her coat and keeps teleporting and keeps trying to get me to eat her stew, which I'm pretty sure.
I'm sorry. Are you referring to Gazelle or Kranis? Oh, wait a minute.
Yes.
Gazelle is Kranis.
No, I love that analysis, by the way. That was amazing.
We'll do a video on it soon, too.
Gazelle's stew gives you, like the reason no one is eating it is because just looking at it, being in its general presence gives you, like, a contact high, and then no one is able to do anything. Like, it's a strong contact high, too. You just look at it, and you're just out.
Exactly.
Actually, Recoome, how are we doing on time?
We have as much time as you want. I usually like to keep these between an hour and an hour and a half, so we are closing in on the hour mark if you want to wrap it up, but if you've got more, then you're more than welcome.
I think right now, I'm like, does anyone, including chat also, and you guys have questions for me? Like,
I think I got all of my questions out in during the video. I know I asked about 1 billion of them. So
yeah.
I definitely think that this is by far and away my favorite video that I've made. that we've made. I'm sorry.
I'm still here.
Yeah, all right, Faf, get out of the call. Go ahead and go home already. Go to bed or something. So anyway, we really enjoyed making this video. It was awesome, and we were so happy to have you on the podcast and be able to talk about
Thank
the
you.
excitement that is the compendium and the tier list project and everything in between.
Well, I appreciate it so much. I definitely love being here. And yes, Solarans, I do want a Persona lab. It needs to be soon. I'm still working in pharma. Yes, I am still working, actually.
Lena, I am thou, thou art I. Thou hast awakened to a new bond. With the power of the Fool persona, you will break thy chains and find freedom, or whatever the quote is.
Wow, that's pretty fucking good.
That is actually pretty good. But
right.
Which is extra good because Fool is an actual archon.
It's true. So, as we do at the end of every stream, I just want to see if David, you have any closing remarks. Fafnir, if you have any closing remarks before I sign us off.
I need
don't
to go
think
address
the
something
Two
quickly.
Fools episode is complete without talking about fucking chicken.
Fucking chicken. All right. Well, David had to run and go address something, so I'll just take this moment to do my usual call out, which is make sure to check the description. There's going to be a bunch of really useful links down there. Links to the Brave Frontier wiki, links to David's. Oh my god, I couldn't get that out. David's beginner guide. Links to our Patreon, links to our official Twitch channel. Check all of that out. Click on all of them. Do your thing. And once David comes back, we'll really get those comments wrapped up, and we'll see if the Twitch chat has any interesting questions for David as well. And then after that, we'll sign it off.
Well, I'm back. I had to address something quickly.
Yeah, no worries.
My apologies.
So I was just doing my kind of closing bit before so that we could get your final regards as the last part of the video.
Will there be any
an analysis video on the new water? We could we'll probably, instead of doing an analysis on strictly the new water units, what we'll probably do is we'll just analyze Water Vortex Arena as a whole, including where that new unit comes into play with it.
Yeah,
definitely.
So we'll let David sign us off.
It depends on what Senna does.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think she'll come force Recoome to play P5. I don't know. I mean, every single time I bring it up to him, he pushes the date back by like 5 days. So I'm pretty sure.
Recoome.
Yes.
In Persona 5, you get to have many waifus.
Can we do?
But do I get to kill Balefear in Persona 5?
Yes, there's a character that's exactly like Balefear.
Okay, yeah, straight up.
There we go.
Where's my wallet? There is
a character that's straight up like Balefear. Yeah, there is.
I think.
I'm not going to say who that
this last question
is, but and the Twitch chat, I hope, is moral enough to not spoil it for this boy.
Please don't. Anyway, so last question. Okay, I'll take these last two questions. What's your CC said, what's your opinion on BF tubers in general? Well, there aren't that many, and not a lot are well known. But the ones that I did watch were Milko and Ushi, and another guy. I'm not sure his name was Protoscope.
Yeah, I remember Protoscope.
Yeah, the thing was in the beginning they were okay. Protoscope I was like about, but Milko and Ushi were okay at first, especially in the beginning parts of the Brave Frontier game life. But as we got better at the game and got to know the game more, their stuff became a lot more. I don't want to say anything bad because I did learn a lot from him. I would say it didn't really evolve that well. Basically, it didn't really evolve that well, and a lot of BF YouTubers in general, I think. Some of them are too focused on summoning. That's not really. I mean, it's not really content, but I don't think anyone is actively searching for summoning video for Brave Frontier. I don't think anyone's going to be actively searching for that.
I mean, some people like to vicariously live their dreams through watching people wail super hard for units that they will never obtain.
Yeah, exactly, and you know what? That's fine, but I think that's not what the Brave Frontier community needs at this time. I think we need stuff like, like what I'm planning to do soon is like more modern day stuff, more like updated information. I think we need more of that. And this last question, but will the compendium explanation consider things like the difficult content was built for versus the units available at the time of writing? That will all be done in the analysis. It will include that because that's why the compendium is going to be like a evolving medium, because yes, the units back then, we can address that they were strong at the time, but we will also address how they are now compared to that, and also how they do in today's meta.
So,
And yeah,
with that, I think we can close it out. David, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was an awesome time for me, and I am 100% sure it was an awesome time for Faf and everyone watching. So thank you so much.
Oh, yes.
I love being here. I appreciate it. I was so. Side note, quick side note. Me and Lena were asked by people in the voice chat that what I can imagine you two being guest stars on the podcast one day. I'm like, oh, we'll let them decide. And who don't know? The next day you ask me.
Yup.
So I am honored. And if we get to do this again, I'll be more than happy to.
The pleasure's all mine, and honestly, I would be more than happy to have a Brave Compendium update video in the future. So,
Yay!
David, thank you so much, and with that, we're signing off. Goodbye,
All right,
world.
good night. Good night.